Yo, what is up, guys? Before we get into today's episode, I just want to provide a warning that this conversation does contain a lot of swearing, coarse language, and dark humor. So if you are easily offended, take this as a warning. Please don't listen to the episode and then leave me a shitty rating and review. If you do enjoy some good quality banter between two blokes who operated at their highest levels within the military and overseas, dealt with the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, then tune in and enjoy this conversation.
I did have 5 minutes of panic and real fear, real acceptance I was going to die. I thought I was dead. I won't lie to you. I thought I've got a couple of minutes here, so we went out tried to go out with a bang, and I'm panicking. What's Ash going to do if I fucking pile in? He's got to deal with a firefighter. He's got to deal with me. 5 minutes in, the medic comes running through the door. He, in actual fact, has heard me say it on the radio, the personal radio, and without even asking the grouping he was with, he just went, "Boss, I'm off. Si's been shot," and he started running. And the boss is getting over the main radio, but he's heard it on the PRR, and Wes just started running. I believe it was about 400 or 500 metres, full kit, 40, 50 degrees Celsius, through Taliban firing points. He's running past the Taliban that are shooting me. So they must have turned around and looked and been like, "What the fuck is this fuckhead on?"
Fucking nutter.
Yeah, he came straight in. It cracked his classic joke, "Every day's a legs day," because he was a PTI, so he used to train us physically before we went out to deployment, and he was always hammering our legs. But yeah, every day's a legs day. Was completely calm, looked at me, and said straight away, "I've got it, I've got you." He's like, "Don't risk," goes, "It's fine." And for me, mate, after that, no panic. This is, like I said, the man next to you, is of good calibre. He says it, it's done. So for me, mate, there genuinely was not a panic after that. He said I was fine. I had Ash next to me, the guy on the machine gun. A couple minutes after Wes got in, the rest of the section got in. So for the guys who aren't military, the rest of the soldiers that I was sort of covering came back, and then we took over that compound. So we took over the building, started breaking down arcs, started dishing out target indications, started getting the fire back. And we mentioned earlier, Cobes, you had the worst days of your life and the best days of your life. That day, I went from probably one of the worst moments of my life to one of the best moments of my life. The rest of that day was awesome, man. That's what we went out to Afghan to do. We had an awesome firefight. Yeah. We fucking did some damage. We got in a good scrap. I'm with all these boys that are just at the I look around. I'm with all these guys who are the ultimate professionalism at the highest level they're going to operate at. Absolutely killing it, being brave, and just getting aggressive because one of their boys has been hit and it was me. And to experience that, there's not many humans that do experience that. There's not many soldiers that potentially experience that, especially now, guys, we're not deploying as much. Very privileged to have felt that level of that high. It's almost like I'd say it's like a drug. I'm very experienced to have experienced that. It's fucking pretty cool.
Hey guys, welcome to this special episode of the Live Train Perform podcast. I'm your host, Shaun Kober, and joining me today is my man, Simon Moloney. How are you, brother?
Really good, mate. How are you?
I am good, man. I'm really fucking excited to get into this conversation with you. I've known you for a couple of years, and we're going to kind of go into that story, how we met, and the times that we've met up since then. But before that, I'm going to read something so people know who I'm speaking to, which is probably going to bring back some memories for you. The exceptional Afghanistan 2013 Army Snipers Conspicuous Gallantry Cross pair awarded to Lance Corporal of Horse S.G. Moloney, Blues and Royals, for his gallantry in July 2013 following a nighttime helicopter assault operation deep into an insurgent stronghold, where, although himself shot through the neck by an enemy sharpshooter, the force of which threw him off the roof from where he was providing covering fire for his troop, he quickly re-entered the fray following some swift life-saving medical attention by one of his gallant comrades. Re-establishing himself on the roof, he continued to engage and suppress the enemy for a further 90 minutes in temperatures in excess of 40 degrees until finally, against his will, he was ordered to be extracted by helicopter. His citation stating that without his gallantry and skill in the ruthless suppression of the enemy, it is likely that his troop would have sustained multiple casualties. Does that bring back any memories for you? And what are the kind of emotions that you feel when that's read back to you?
I mean, whoever wrote it a lot better than I could have. It was a bit of a shit show from my side of things. But hey, instantly there you get the adrenaline, right? It brings you straight back. It's that feeling of why we all became soldiers, I think. The adrenaline, even telling a story now, you can feel yourself getting sharpened up, that heightened sense of awareness. Yeah, I mean, every time you talk about that day, it comes, straight back to that day. It's cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and we're going to dive into that story. But I wanted to start with that because I wanted people to know who I was speaking to. And, you were a sniper with the British military and I was a sniper with the Australian Army. So this is going to be a very unique conversation that I haven't had with any of my guests. I've spoken to a couple of guys from the military, like Adrian, the founder of Swiss 8, which we're going to discuss in a moment. But I think it's going to be a really unique and interesting conversation for people to hear, man, because a lot of people say to me, dude, you're so fucking disciplined, you're squared away with all your shit, and, your time management's really good, and, you're always on time, and you're always, like, so serious and professional and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, people are going to hear the reasons why I am the way that I am because of, my military career and the sniper course in particular, which we're going to dive into. Can you talk about, how you use those tools that you learnt from the military and how you apply them to your current life? Just briefly. We're going to touch on it throughout the episode, but just talk about some of the things that I just spoke about then. Have people made the same generalizations about you as well?
Yeah, for sure. It's you don't realise how far it goes. Basics of turning up in good order, sort of 5 minutes before when you're supposed to be. Communication skills as well. A lot of soldiers are quite straight talking sometimes. If something's going wrong, they'll call someone out on it straight away or say this is going wrong, this is what needs to happen right now, as opposed to I think people who haven't been in the military maybe pussyfoot around a bit, especially in a corporate environment, or there's ways of doing things, or they don't want to upset HR, whereas someone screaming, "Oi, fuckhead, stop that, you're going to get people hurt." It normally works a bit better than an email from Anna in HR.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's a really good point, dude. Like, people say that I'm so fucking straight and like don't beat around the bush, and that's going to hurt people's feelings at some stage. And I mean, my opinion is, like you said, you need to be able to fucking communicate, and you need to be able to communicate effectively. And I'm learning to change my communication skills to the person that I'm speaking to, because there's definitely been times in the past where my I guess direct communication has gotten me in trouble and rubbed some noses the wrong way.
Yeah, for sure. I think every man in the military, or man or woman ex-military, has definitely experienced that. Unfortunately, we come from a background where if you don't say something, people are going to get hurt, as opposed to something maybe not as serious. So we're used to high stakes all the time, and if not, it's just a lot of hard work, right? If you mess something up in the military, it's a lot of hard work. Maybe the blokes who have just done 8 miles are going to have to do further, or stuff like that. So, and that's bare minimum. At the other end of the scale, you've got people's lives, and a lot of work that's going to go to waste. So I think that's where we come from, and I think that's good, and I think that stands us out against other people. It's definitely a transferable skill and puts you above the rest if you're competing with people for jobs or in a workplace. But like you say, yeah, it does need to be tailored down sometimes. Not everyone's like that. Yeah. I still get slaps off my mum sometimes for how I speak.
Yeah, not everyone's. Yeah, but 100%, man. Not everyone's receptive to it. It's funny, like I dated a girl for 5 years after I got out of the army, and every time I would go away with the boys for a weekend or whatever, I'd always come back and she's like, "Who are you?" Like, my mannerisms were different. I was talking different. I just kind of fell back into, the soldier that I was back in the day, What I want to talk about first, mate, is the Swiss 8 principles. So I'm an ambassador for Swiss 8. You obviously know the Swiss 8 boys. You met them in Thailand when they were over here last year doing their hard reset and somewhat of a recce for their potential retreats that they might be running over here. So if anyone's listening, they don't know what Swiss 8 is, it's a proactive mental health model designed by veterans, initially for veterans, but it's been pushed out to the wider community now to help people structure in 8 pillars of health and wellness, and that's delivered via an app. So the 8 pillars of health and wellness are sleep, nutrition, discipline, time management, fitness, personal growth, mindfulness, and minimalism. For you, mate, are any of those principles, do any of those principles stand out to you? And if so, why?
Yeah, easy answer for me is sleep. All of them are worthwhile, some more than others for me personally, but if I don't sleep, I am not going to do any of the rest very well. If I haven't had a decent amount of sleep the night before, if I train, it's going to be half-hearted, or I'm not going to get what I want from it. I then come away from that feeling disappointed, or even, angered or frustrated. I'm not, you can, and then you can eat as well as you want, but if you haven't had the sleep, again, you're playing catch up, sort of. So yeah, in my opinion, mate, sleep that forms the base, and then from there you can work the others out.
Yeah, man, I 100% agree with you. And I listed sleep as the number one. I actually listed those in my order of precedence because I did put together an 8-part miniseries, or it was a 10-part miniseries, on the Swiss 8 principles for the podcast. So if you're listening and want to know a little bit more about each one of those principles, definitely go back and listen to those episodes. I think it's like episode 22 right through to 32 or something like that. But I'll have the first interview in the show notes. That's with Adrian, the founder of Swiss 8. Now, obviously sleep is important for you now, but have those pillars been in a different order at a different stage in your life?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you take it for granted, but now in the military, sleep is not a priority. That's well known. Any sort of operation does not work around how much sleep you blokes are getting. It's, you get it where you can. Myself being a sniper, you'd find you were leaving before everyone else to get eyes on, and then you were normally staying in position after the main job had gone in, because you're looking at follow-ups or just waiting to extract once the busyness has gone away. So then you have to fit sleep in, and you get into the planning cycle earlier than everyone else. So sleep is not a premium. So for me, after that, it was definitely always nutrition, because I could operate when I was cold, wet, and tired. But for me, I mean, I'm a big guy. I'm 6 foot plus. If I don't start eating, I get angry, man. I start to get snappy with people, and I notice it bad. The blokes would notice it as well. I'd just get a ration pack thrown at my head when I started to get snappy with people. Get that down you and come back when you've changed your attitude. But for me, yes, mate, sleep. Sleep wasn't a priority in the army. It was food. I was always looking for food.
Yeah. That's interesting, man, because, I was the same as well. Like, we always used to say shit like, you sleep when you're dead. Like, you'd kind of laugh it off, and you go out, you come back from bush, you've been out bush for a couple of weeks on exercise or something, you come back on a Thursday night and, you're sleep deprived for the last couple of days. And then, you get back into barracks, you clean all your weapons and all that sort of shit, and handle your stores back in, and you're like, boom, let's go to town. And then you're fucking out on the piss for a couple of nights. Or you might go out that night, and then Friday you've got your PT sessions, like your battle PT sessions, your pack marches, or, the rucking, or, carries and drags and all that sort of shit. And man, I've got so many stories where I was lacking sleep and doing PT in the morning. I mean, we were running around the ring road, man. We had this like 7.5 kilometer ring road around our base up in Darwin and in Australia. And, guys would go out on the piss. They come back and like slept for 2 hours, and we're running around the ring road, man. And guys are like vomiting on themselves whilst they're running, and like pushing off to the side, like hitting push-ups and shit like that. And, oh man, we were like functioning alcoholics.
Yeah, for sure. And I wouldn't say it was encouraged, but it was definitely a culture. Like,
yeah,
one lad goes out, well, I'm fucking going out. And, like you said, just come back in off exercise, and everyone does it. And I don't know, maybe it's an age thing. I also think it's a mentality thing. I didn't know any different. I didn't know anything about sport science and fitness and how the body works. So I just thought it was a mentality. I was, rough, tough soldier. Yeah. And I can do it on 8 hours sleep. And, I know one lad, we had the basic fitness test in the army. Very basic is the 1.5 mile run. I think you've got to do it in under 10.5 minutes. 9 minutes is a fairly decent time. One of the guys got sort of like near 7 minutes when he was pissed. He'd done like 8 pints the night before, had about 2 hours sleep, came in and broke his time. He never got near that again. And maybe that is, for that, I'd say mindset. Obviously, it goes against everything we know now. And like, you can see both of us like, oh, that is horrendous on the body. But guys done it, and guys got good times. And it just goes to show that sometimes it can be mind over matter for sure. It's just a mindset, how you approach it. And you just, you're up for it. A lot of the time you beat yourself before you even do something.
Yeah, I actually read something about alcohol being like a inhibitor. So our brain essentially has a governor that's like, don't produce too much force because you're going to hurt yourself. But then you introduce alcohol and sleep deprivation and that governor's just been turned down, man. And dude, I've played some of my best rugby games when I haven't slept or I'm hungover and only had 2 hours sleep or whatever, man. It's like, you kind of don't feel that pain anymore and you just push through and it's like, all right, well, I went out and drank like a man, so now I need to back it up like a man.
For sure, and that's the main thing is it's big boys rules. You go out, you turn up the next day, and you've got to do whatever you've committed to. So I think that challenge with the bravado of it all is we've got 10 miles tomorrow, but let's go out then. That's what a lot of it was.
Well, that's it, man. Like sometimes I've spoken about conditioning yourself to adversity numerous times on the podcast, and that's what you're doing, right? You're like, all right, well, I know that I've got a 10 clicker tomorrow, and I know we just got back from exercise or whatever. The boys are going out tonight, it's whatever, tits out Tuesday, whatever it might be. Go and get on the piss, and then it's like, you hit it the next day, and you're like, right, well, I'm just going to prove to myself that I can perform, I can function while I'm in a shitty state. It was funny, man. Just reminded me of one time we had the entire company, I think it was support company, like 120 odd dudes. We just got back from exercise. Everyone went out on the piss. Battle PT on the Friday, and there's like half of the fucking company, man, were just like standing on their feet at first parade, just like swaying, just stinking of piss. And the CSM comes out, awesome dude, and he's just like, rightio, you cunts. I fucking know you went out on the piss last night, but that's cool. If you want to fucking drink like a man, you need to back it up like a man. If anyone fucking pulls out today, you're on guard all weekend. And nobody pulled out, man. Everyone fucking finished it. Yeah, and like, not only finished it, but smashed it. And he was like, that's what I'm talking about, boys. You want to go out and like get on the piss, then you got to back it up. You still got to be able to do your job, man. I think there's something fucking special about that, hey?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think it's very relatable. When you look at the overexertion of it, is you're expected to do similar on operations or on your sniper's course, and not obviously go on the smash and then come back in, but the overexerted of you haven't had the sleep, the rest, the food or the nutrition, whatever that you need, but you are going to pull it out the bag now, and you're going to be on empty, but you're going to keep going for however long or until the job's done. And it's that pack mentality as well. I know a lot of the times, like the Sergeant Major used to come out. If there was just 5 of you that had gone out on the piss, he'd sort of wonder why the other 10 hadn't. If there was all of you gone out and his whole company's in shit state, you're happy. This is what you want. You want unity before you go out on operations or in a group like that. Yeah, for sure. I think there's definitely some advantages to it.
That's a really fucking good point, man. I got asked probably like May last year. I was on a mate's podcast, the Life Livers Academy podcast with Jamie O'Donnell, and he asked me, he's like, what was it like being in the military? And I was like, it had its good points, it had its bad points, but I'm like, it's one of those things, like, you never experience that camaraderie ever again in your life. And like, I've won 7 premierships, man, playing rugby, and I've been parts of really fucking, a part of really fucking amazing teams, but that camaraderie of, you live with your best mates. You go out with your best mates. You drink with your best mates. You go to the gym with your best mates. You go and exercise with your best mates. You go on deployments with your best mates. You have leave at the same time. You go on leave together, man. Like, who else in their life ever spends that much time with a bunch of dudes that they fucking love and care about, man, that they also need to potentially rely upon with their lives? And, this is something I've explained before, is like, you go through some of the best times of your life with these guys by your side, but you also go through some of the worst times of your life with these guys by your side. What's your experience with that, or is there anything that you want to add to that?
I totally agree and resonate with everything you've just said. You go through the best times of your life. An operational tour is an interesting one because for us it's 6 months. I think you guys are similar, right? you go through the best and the worst times of your life within those 6 months with those lads that you love, trust. You have, you can laugh in front of them, cry in front of them. You know them by the end, by their silhouette, how someone walks at night, how someone would walk past me in the pitch black. I would know that was him. I'd know that was Jacko. I'd know that was Josh.
Dude, that's a great point, man. Like, and I'm sure you can speak about this as well as like, I'd be in Overwatch position as with our sniper team, and I'd be like on the PR on the radio, like chatting to the boys and be like, "Oi, put your dick away, mate." One of the boys had rolled out and he's taking a piss and he's like, "What the fuck? Where are you, bro?" Like looking around trying to find where I am. But you could tell who dudes were, man. And I'm like, a K and a half away, and I could tell who was who by how they walked, man, by their gait.
Yeah, for sure. Again, another sniper thing, is it the A2H with your gait and how someone walks? But for sure, you pick that up. You could even the obvious ones where your man who just like slaps around with kit on, you can probably hear him before you can see him, and it's him. But this is what I think certain lads, or most lads, struggle when they get out, is because you're used to just living with people all the time. If you're feeling a bit down, my mates used to be like, "What's up with you?" Before I realised that I was feeling down. Like likewise. Yeah.
They just picked up on your energy and your body language, man.
So 100%. Someone walks past your room. What's up with you? I'm usually sat up doing something, and I'm laid on my bed, sort of staring at the telly. What's up with you? Straight away they're in. Similarly to lads maybe struggling on the physical side of things, load of the lads get round and get them down the gym, and you train together. Someone's just broken up with a girlfriend. They get a can of beer chucked at their head and like, "Come on, we're going out." You're just with a group of lads all the time. You don't have to think or worry. It's that wolf pack mentality. But that's what the lads miss. I think a lot of the lads stayed in longer than they should have. They would have wanted to leave long before that, but they stayed in trying to cling on to it. And then when you do get out, and if you're having troubles, and this is that safety net that you took for granted with the guys, you soon find yourself in a bit of a bad way, right?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. And like pretty much everyone that I know that has gotten out has gone through that same process. I went through the same process as well. As like, I haven't had any dramas with, anxiety or depression or PTSD or anything like that. I've had some days days/weeks where I haven't been feeling quite right, and I'm like, I don't really know what's wrong. But then I soon realized, like, I'm just kind of fucking floating through life, and I don't have a purpose. I'm not giving myself something to work towards, But once I realized that, I just kind of repurposed those SOPs, standard operating procedures, that made me such a fucking good soldier in the army. And I was like, well, I'm not getting up at the same time every day. I'm not shaving every day. I'm not going to the gym every day at the same time. I'm not, I don't have these structures in place. And once I realized that, I was like, well, fuck, I just need to start doing that stuff again, but then just repurpose it to, the person that I want to be and the life that I'm living right now. Can you talk about your experience with that? And that kind of ties in with the Swiss 8 model because, that's essentially why the app was created, because one of Adrian's mates ended up taking his own life, man, because he went through the same process and just fucking, lost that sense of tribe and community and camaraderie, and, the wheels kind of fell off and he didn't see another way out. And that's why the app was created, to, get these tools out to people to, be a proactive model rather than a reactive model. Talk to me about some of those things that you went through, and kind of what you're doing now, because you're working with a charity called Head Up at the moment. You're a co-founder of that, is that correct?
Yes, mate, correct. So, mate, what you said about when you first left, I'm really glad you brought some of those points up, because it's brought some things back up in my mind, and you've led me in really well. When I first left the army, these SOPs, I just fucked straight off. I was happy that I didn't have to shave, haircuts. I almost rebelled, and I wasn't bitter against the army to say,
exactly.
I enjoyed my time in the army, but I fucked it straight off. Probably, still tried to go to the gym, but because I wanted to look good. But other than that, the discipline went. I had long hair. Not that this matters to say, but it's just that my image was degrading. Grew a beard, was getting on the piss far too much, and it was just went a bit mad, to be honest with you, and completely left that. And it was almost like I'm not in the army anymore, so I need to find out who I am, and I'm not a soldier. And then, 6 months down the line, you get the realisation, and you look at yourself, and one, you're in shit state, two, your head's all over the place, and what do you come back to? you come back to the SOPs, you come back to that discipline, and then as soon as you implement them, and this is where Swiss 8 again is awesome with just, even start getting regular sleep, start eating well, start having a good routine, all of your life within a week is coming back together, making improvements, and then you're thriving off the progress. So yeah, I completely went west when I left. Was going out partying too much, and a couple of the lads were worried about me. And we look at it now, and I did suffer from PTSD for a while, and that had started to creep in from this. These anxious thoughts and just getting over emotional, and got to a point where some days I wasn't turning up to work, just because I was overly sad for no reason at all. And then you don't realise what's going on. So as soon as you...
Yeah, and it's like you don't know why you're sad. You're just like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, why do I feel like this?
Yeah, for sure. And then that soldier mentality as well is because of this action, or you have been put into this situation, here are your 3 options of action. It's like a process all the time. So wake up one day feeling sad, that's not heard of in the army. You just get a fucking grip and get going. Like that was the mentality, right? So
boots on, soldier on.
Yeah, for sure. So how'd you get back on the track? Well, I went back to those old SOPs, the discipline, getting regular sleep, getting the right amount of sleep, eating well, training regularly, not drinking all the time. Like simple things now, but you soon come back to it. For sure, you soon come back to those SOPs, those life skills that you learn when you were 16, really.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's a really young age to join. We're going to talk about your military career in a moment, but before that, I want to talk about Head Up. Like, what's going on with Head Up? Like, what's your role there? Why is that charity started? And like, kind of, what's the vision for Head Up? I'm going to be talking to Paul. You connected me with Paul, who's the other co-founder who initially had the idea. I'm going to be talking to him and releasing that episode probably after this episode, or maybe the one after. But give my listeners a little bit of an understanding of what you're up to now with Head Up and kind of the vision that you're working towards.
Yeah, for sure. So Paul is a very good friend of mine. I served with him. We went to Afghan together on my last tour. Paul's done sort of like 5 odd tours, maybe 6. Really busy guy, brilliant soldier. And he suffered from PTSD. He suffered from PTSD badly, to the point where it's got him discharged from the army. But he found any of the training or help that the army gave him didn't help, because he describes it as it was in a military environment, right? So you turn up and there's still a sergeant major with a clipboard saying you will meet this time and this time and this time, and you're sausage factoried through. And he doesn't want to relate to that. It was like treating a burns victim and then sending them back into a fire. That's the way he puts it. Which was really interesting. So we were in lockdown together, and we were up in Scotland, and he ran round the lock. The lock there was about 36 miles, and he just went out one day and did it. And on that, he did a lot of thinking, and he just said he came straight back in off the run, and I'm like trying to give him a beer and trying to give him some food, and he ran straight back into the house and started scribbling down in his notepad. And he just had this mad idea, not so mad now. He's made it reality, but he wants to start Head Up, and he has started Head Up. Me and 2 other guys have come on board to help him, but it's definitely Paul's vision. And it's very similar to Swiss 8 with regards to how you live your life. Being better at life will prevent this, but we want to sort of help the guys live a better life before these issues take place, take hold of them as they leave, or even while they're in. But have a good routine, meditation, mindfulness, eating the right things, understanding the body, understanding why you're going to feel sad, like we've just said. And the main eventual aim is to have a holistic retreat, which guys can come to on a week or a 3-week course, learn the ways. And hey, we're not going to sausage factory them through and sort of tell them how to be. We're just going to teach them techniques and then let the soldier go. Soldiers are thinking guys. They don't want to have their hand held. They want to be taught how to fish, and then they're going to go and fish, so to speak. So that's the aim. And Paul will go into a lot more detail. But how Paul is going to get the name out there is he's going to run 5,800 miles around the United Kingdom along the coast. He's going to do 30 miles a day. And the main point is it's going to be unsupported. So he will have guys with him, just as a safety net. But he's essentially relying on people taking him into their homes each night. So he's going to run to a certain location, go into someone's house. That night he's going to sit down, talk to the family, talk about mental health, talk about Head Up, work out how he can help them, get a feel for how the world and the United Kingdom feels about mental health and trauma, and just get to know people. And that's what Paul's all about.
Yeah, that's fucking sick, man. What's your role within the organisation?
So I'm a founder with Paul. Essentially, we sort of try and help out with the business planning side of things. You know, there's a lot of nets to jump through, and these things, you know, with Swiss 8, and just basically, mainly, we're going to run head up whilst Paul is on this run, and then from there, we just split the load. All of us serve together. All 4 of us are good friends, very good friends. So it's not like work. We get a lot of joy from the fact that it brings us all together, and we're bringing lads in and helping lads. So it's so far so good, man. It's a really good cause. It's got a lot of energy behind it, and it's building a lot of motivation within the UK. It's getting a lot of attention from the right people. So far so good, mate.
Yeah, fuck yeah, that's awesome, man. What are some of the tools that you've used to, if some people are listening and they're kind of having some dramas, they've recently discharged from the military, they kind of lost their way a little bit because, look, man, like this is, let's be honest, you know, a lot of the issues that people have gone through over the last year since this pandemic kicked off, it's the same fucking things that we went through when we discharged from the military. Probably like a little bit lower scale, but, you know, people are losing jobs and, you know, being isolated in lockdown and things like that. And, you know, they lose their self-identity. They lose, you know, people are no longer going to their work, and their work defines who they are, and the people they hang out with, you know, define who they are. And when people have kind of lost their way, lost their purpose, and, you know, they're looking at the world through a negative lens, like, what's some words of advice that you can give to them? And some tools that you've used in the past that kind of, you know, helped you get back on track, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I go on about it. Get enough sleep, because people, I'm full foul of it. I sit on that sofa behind me and I watch Netflix till 3 a.m. I get stuck in. And then this drags on. So it starts there. I then sleep in the next day till 10, 11. Then you feel shit. By the time you've got yourself together, it's midday. You feel like you've lost the day. So you slip back into it again. So go to bed at a decent time. And this is a really weird point, but something that has really resonated with me is on Instagram. Look on Instagram. Go on your social media. It's an awesome platform. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on there. Look at dog videos, whatever you want to do. But don't pay attention to what other people are doing, because it's so easy to look on there and you see, you know, so-and-so next door who's puts on Instagram that they've just done 1,000 burpees, and you feel like shit. Just don't pay attention to what other people are doing. Keep yourself happy, be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, and rate yourself, back yourself. It's very easy in this day and age, man. We got, you know, you go onto your phones, you go onto the computer, and there's just all these people that appear to be absolutely smashing it, billionaires, awesome cars. Be good to yourself, rate yourself, and back yourself are the 3 things I'd probably say in this situation, because it's very easy to feel shit with everything that's in your face.
Yeah, for sure, man. I want to add to that point as well. I pretty much go to bed at the same time every night, and I always turn my phone off at 9 o'clock every night. So that kind of last hour before I go to bed is my wind down time. I'm minimizing my lights. I'm, you know, cooling the room down. You know, I might do a little bit of meditation before bed or whatever, and kind of preparing for sleep, because sleep is an investment for your next day, your productivity the next day. You know, and then first thing in the morning, you know, I get up, I have a coffee, I watch the sunrise on my balcony, I'll do some meditation, and then I'll like write down in my diary for the day. I write down all the shit that I need to get done, that I'm getting paid to do, and then I write down all of the other shit that I need to do, that I want to do for myself. It might be training, it might be a little bit of tan time by the pool whilst I'm going through online client calls, it might be editing a podcast, or, you know, doing my anatomy and physiology course or something like that. So, you know, to add to that is, you know, I don't use my phone the last hour of the day or the first hour of the day to get a good night's sleep, and then I'm proactively setting my day up to kick off the day. So I know exactly when I've got free time for myself, so that I can, you know, have some chill time there, and I'm scheduling that in. So time management is an important one as well. And again, it gives you that structure, it gives you that purpose, and it gives you that understanding of what you're shooting for that day. And then you can allocate, you know, time to the most important things. So great point, mate. From here, I want to transition into your military career. Now, you joined at 17. And you did 2 deployments to Afghanistan. Was it your first deployment where you had your troops suffered 30% casualties?
Yeah, correct. So I deployed at 18. I believe I was the youngest of the regiment to deploy, but there was a few 18-year-olds on the tour anyway. And yeah, 30% casualties first tour within my platoon.
Fuck, man, that's crazy, dude. You guys are in Helmand, right?
Yes, mate, correct. So we're in Helmand Province, which, for those who don't know, is like the southern central part of Afghan, but it's quite punchy, and there was a lot of fighting there purely because it was sort of where all the farming was, and where there's farming, there's where the drugs are grown. So that's where they make their money. This is why it's the point of contention.
Yeah, was it like 80-90% of the world's heroin originates from the poppy fields in Afghanistan or something like that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the average wage is $2 a day. You start selling heroin or selling heroin for the Taliban, that bumps up to $10 a day. You tell someone you're going to multiply their yearly income by 5. It's not a hard choice, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's discuss what was your role on that first deployment?
So my platoon was a recce platoon for the battle group. So we based in a place called Musakala, and we're based on vehicles called Jackals, which were like open sort of all-terrain buggy type things. Really cool platform. Quite open and exposed, and fuck man, we were cold in the winter, but they were awesome vehicles. So we switched between using those and then patrolling on foot. But essentially, it was a winter tour, so the weather was bad. We were up in the mountains anyway, so the weather was bad. It was cold, and then for us, it was IED season, so improvised explosive devices. Not much kinetic fighting. It was just playing cat and mouse. They just dug themselves in. We also had the issue of where the Russians were there. There was a big Russian presence in Musakala, so obviously not then, back in the 80s. But a lot of their minefields with the heavy weather had just migrated. So the mudslides and stuff like that, you just have mines just washed in across the road. So we hit a couple of those without even meaning to, and that caused a few dramas. A lot of guys got hurt from those, on top of then having to fight the Taliban. So
fuck, man, that's crazy. Now, you returned back to the UK and then you did your sniper's course. Now, talk to me about why you did your sniper's course. You mentioned that you saw the effect that they were having on the enemy on your first deployment. Let's discuss that. Yeah,
for sure. So, like I said, my first tour, my troops sustained 30% casualties. So 1 in 3 of us had life-changing injuries or died. Wasn't too tough for an 18-year-old, because I was just naive to it. I thought that's what it was. I was almost like that young and stupid that it didn't register. It didn't even fathom. I think if I'd have gone on that tour now, at my age, I'm 29, it would have a completely different effect on my life now and my mental health. So
still a young pup, mate.
Yeah, mate. I just went into it like thick, like, oh, this is how it is, man. But
sweet, let's roll.
Yeah. So I noticed there that we didn't have much of an effect on the enemy. We just got hammered, to be honest with you, for 6 months. I didn't even see a Taliban fight at that tour. I just dealt with casualties, and we went out on the ground, and I spent a lot of time wet and cold, and trying to find this enemy, but never really getting it, and just getting hammered.
Yeah.
So I saw the snipers were having an effect, and they were killing the enemy. And it's something that I was interested in anyway. It's a cool job, right? So as soon as I got back, that's what I was determined to do. I didn't want to leave the army, but like fuck was I going to go back to Afghan and have a tour like that again where I had no effect on the enemy, and I just spent 6 months grafting still, in the wet and cold. I wanted to get out there and start throwing the punches. So that was my aim as soon as I got back, and I was lucky enough to get a slot or get a chance to get a shot at the title when I did get back.
Let's talk about that, because I did Iraq in 2007, East Timor 2008, 2009. I actually did my most of my sniper's course in East Timor on a peacekeeping mission, and then I did Afghan 2010, 2011. So I did some of my sniper's course in East Timor. Because it was a peacekeeping mission, we're actually running courses over there, man. But I did my range qualifications in Australia before we went over there. Now, that is one of the most fucking difficult things I've ever done in my life. The sniper's course, man. It was set up for us to fucking fail. And prior to getting on the course, we had to be nominated by our hierarchy, our NCOs, that were like, oh, this dude's a good fucking soldier. He'd be a good fit for either reconnaissance or snipers. And I got recommended for snipers. And we had 20 of the best soldiers in the battalion that lined up for the snipers course. We did a pre-course over 2 weeks and just got fucking hammered, man. And then that got whittled down to 7 soldiers. So 7 soldiers started the course and only 3 passed. And I only passed after a retest once the course had actually finished. And we'll talk about, the different gates that we had to pass going through that course. But talk to me about that process for you leading into that and then through the course as well. And then we'll talk about some of the things that we had to do, some of the requirements that we had to tick off the list to become qualified snipers.
Yeah, for sure. So similarly, we don't have a pre-course, we call it a selection, but that was 3 weeks. 25 of us got on the course, and then I think 15 of us passed that. So we had 15 get through, and then those lads then get put onto the next following courses. The course itself, I believe 10 or 12 of us started and 4 of us passed. So again, but these 12 that start the course have already gone through a 3-week selection, and they've been whittled down from a high number of guys. So that was tough. Hey man, I thought I was going to fail that course from start to finish. Even when I got handed my badge at the end, I still didn't believe that I'd passed, because that's just how the DS treat you, isn't it? You just they don't give anything away. And me personally, I need a bit of encouragement. If I'm doing something well, I need to know I'm doing something well, and someone go, even if it's just a good job, and then I know I need to keep cracking at that direction, at that pace. But otherwise, your head plays games. Am I doing the right thing? You second guess yourself all the time. And I'm happy I learned that lesson so young, but it wreaked havoc on my mind for sure.
Yeah, man. Like you said, I think the first 2 or 3 weeks of the course, it's so fucking hard, man. And you're literally set up to fail. The DS, the instructors are making everything so fucking difficult that nobody passes, man. And everyone's like, holy fuck, man. How are we ever going to pass this course? And every single person's doubting themselves. But I think that's part of the test as well. It's let's see how these fucking dudes react when we make this so difficult that not a single person is passing a single thing. And let's fucking smash them for a couple of weeks. Let's add PT on top of that. Let's see how they perform when they're sleep deprived. Let's see, how they deal with fucking essentially losing and not winning anything, man. And I think that's a big part of the mindset and building that mindset capability. Talk to me about some of the emotions and thoughts that went through your mind going through those first couple of weeks of the course, especially.
Mate, for sure. I think that's a big life lesson there, is you are losing every time, but what you don't realise is you are getting better. What we didn't realise was the standard was creeping. They were keeping the bar set to a point where we would always lose, but we were getting better. And then when they bring the bar back down to the level you need to be able to pass the course, all of a sudden you get it. But they don't do that till the end of the day. And if you can relate that into a life lesson, I think you'll do very well. There's a lot of situations you can apply where you think you're not doing well, but you are getting better. You are there. Just keep pedaling. Is the one tip I would say from all of that. Yeah, so the first couple of weeks... Go on, sorry.
Go. No, you go.
The first couple of weeks, we just do ranges. It's just ranges. So we're doing all our shooting. We're firing out to long distances. And this is the first sort of time you get really hands-on the sniper rifle. You're doing that in a day, but then in the night time, you're doing night navigations. And these night navigations are with your full kit. So you're carrying 60 pound. You're in your ghillie suit. You're trying to crack. You can't go on tracks. You have to go cross country every time because you're doing it tactically. It's just all these little things, like you're getting snagged on bushes and you're trying to rattle through. It's 2 a.m. and the emphasis is get this done. The sooner you finish, the sooner you go to bed, because you're still up at 6 to start shooting on the ranges the next day. I can remember once running through a training area in Wales. I'd fucked up from the first checkpoint, so I was already catching up on lost time. And I'm running through a woodblock, and I run through a harbour area, an infantry platoon's harbour area, and they're like, stop. And I'm like, fuck off. And then they stand too.
Oh,
and then,
fuck.
Then the section commander within there is like, mate, seriously, stop. And I was like, fuck off. Carried on running, hit a trip flare. So I hit a trip flare, but now that the thing's gone up, they're all looking at me, and I'm like tangled up in this wire. So I keep going. I'm like, fuck off. And then as I turn around, I ran straight into a barbed wire fence and impaled myself. And I just laid there while this platoon of infantry recruits just look at me laughing, right, whilst the trip flare slowly burnt down. And then once it burnt down, I knew you couldn't see me. I started to unravel myself and walked off with my head down. This was like week 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get there and the DS is like, fail.
Yeah. All of that, I come back in absolute shit state. Yeah. 2 minutes over, Moloney. Fail.
That's fucking hilarious, man. Let's talk about some of the gates that you have to pass. Like, you know, I've explained the different components of the sniper's course to a few people. Not too many people have heard these stories, but you know, it's being a sniper is not just about being able to hit a fucking target at distance. Like, you need good soldiering skills, you need good fieldcraft, you need, you know, good camouflage concealment, you need good navigation experience, both static navigation and mobile navigation. You know, we also needed to be able to draw. We also needed good observation skills. We needed to put all of that together. We needed to judge distances. You know, there's so many different things that come into play. And, you know, some of the gates that we had to pass were OBS lanes. I'm sure like a lot of this stuff is, you know, similar for you guys, but OBS lanes were, you know, you'd sit down in location, you'd have your spotting scopes and your rifles with the scopes on them, and you'd have like a left of arc and a right of arc, and you'd have 15 minutes to draw what you saw in front of you. Now, we had to do that because for the most part, when you get in location overseas, like that becomes your range card where you're identifying, you know, certain features that you use as reference points that you have distances to, so you can, you know, call onto a target very fucking quickly. Now, we would have our left of arc, our right of arc, and then there'd be whatever, like 12 pieces of equipment within those left and right of arcs, no closer than 15 meters, no further than 200 meters. And you would spend, you know, a couple of minutes in each position you'd draw the whole scene, and then you'd spend, you know, 15 minutes in each position observing through your spotting scopes, trying to find fucking pieces of equipment. Like, and you could just see like the tip of a toothbrush sticking out of the ground at fucking 170 meters, and you'd have to draw that in, and you'd have to identify it, and you'd have to judge the distance to it. And that was probably one of the hardest things for me, man. Was one, I fucking draw like a child. I can't draw for shit, man. Some of the boys were like putting this artwork together, and you know, I would look at their sketches. I'm like, holy fuck, I know exactly where everything is, but mine were terrible. But we need to be able to do that, because if we, you know, pass the course, we end up in Afghanistan and we need to draw what's in front of us because the cameras have gone down, or they're wet, or, you know, they're not operating, or whatever. Like, you still need that skill. You know, talk to me about your experience with that.
Yeah, for sure, mate. I'm with you. I was terrible at drawing. And it's like, I remember my first drawing, like my first OBS lane, and I handed it in, and he was like, I knew, I handed it in and walked away, and he's like, I literally must have walked 2 minutes, like, Moloney, fucking get in now. And I'm like, yeah, Roger. And essentially, but they're right. Like you said, the cameras go down, the snipers work about, you know, in front of the front line. You're the first guys to get eyes on the enemy. You're finding, essentially, that picture is going to get sent back to the battle group commander, to the colonel, and he's going to launch his operations off what you've drawn of the enemy position. And, you know, it's got Johnny Age 5 written in the corner. It's not, it's not on at all. So yeah, I struggled with that hugely. On the OBS lanes they used to do with us, they'd be like, yep, so this is here, and I still can't see it. I'm looking at it with my spotting scope, and I still can't see it. Then they put a giant orange card behind it to highlight it, and I still can't fucking see it. Like, but again, your eyes are a muscle. You train, you get better. But what for me was that it was the overload, the progression of the course. So you spend the first 3 weeks shooting, and you know you try really struggling to achieve those standards. You achieve them, and then they're like, well, this is the bare fucking minimum, because taking the shot is the bare minimum. Before you take that shot, you've got to have your navigation, you've got to have your camo concealment, you've got to have this to even get in the position to take the shot. So, you know, you come off a bit of a high, and again, another life lesson. You've got this massive high because I've just passed my shooting, and then you brought straight back down to earth, because guess what? I didn't get a shot off for the next 6 weeks because I never got to the fucking position until the final fucking week, where you then it starts to click, and they lower the standard again, and you get there.
Yeah. That's a great point, man. Is like, taking the shot is the fucking easy part. You've got to locate the enemy first. Then you've got to get within range, in position without being seen. Then you've got to judge distances, and then fucking hit the target, and then be able to, you know, not be seen and get yourself out of there. You know, it's fucking, that's like That's the stalk, and we'll culminate with the stalk. But let's talk about the individual components. So I spoke about the obs lane. Talk about another component. Might be cam and concealment. Like, just explain to the listeners what the cam and concealment drills are.
Yeah, so camouflage and concealment, it says exactly what it says on the tin. And the rule we used to work was that you'd have to survive like a 2-meter walk past. So you were camouflaged to the point where someone would walk past you, an enemy soldier could walk past you within 2 meters, and he wouldn't realise you were there. Then, going on from that, you've obviously got what we call a 360 battle. So you've got thermal cameras, you've got IR. So all these little things that you'd need to sort of at least think about and consider when picking a position to hide. And you can't just hide behind a tree or a solid object, because you still need to be able to observe the enemy at all times and take the shot. So you'd have these, they call them arcs. So we'd have a 2-minute arc. So you'd have 2 minutes, almost like hide and seek. It's got like a hide and seek for grown-ups. In 2 minutes, you run off, get in a position, hide, and then the guy turns around and he sees if he can spot you. Then you'd have a 5-minute arc where you get a bit more time, and et cetera, et cetera. So this is how you're building up. But again, you just fail. You're just getting kicked in the teeth every time, to the point where you're like, every weekend I drove home from that course and I was like, I'm not fucking coming back on Sunday. Because we used to get a lot, they try and get us weekends off because the blokes would just be snapped. Get out of camp, spend some time at home, forget about, put some clean clothes on. We had the same uniform for 9 weeks. The stuff we stalked in, we didn't wash because we wanted it to smell bad. We wanted it to, you want to be part. I know a bloke who got failed on a stalk because they smelt baby powder. Oh, they smelt the baby powder and all that shit that he used, and they could smell it. And they were like, this is a tactical fail. This is not what a sniper does. He doesn't have fucking freshly baby powdered feet. You use scentless baby powder or senseless foot powder, scentless, for example. You're just an absolute tramp, which I did quite enjoy, but you need to have the break. The mental aspect of it is the hardest bit. Like I said before,
super stressful, bro. Super stressful. Like, you're failing fucking everything. Now, the another thing I want to talk about is the static navigation. So, we would get dropped off in location with our rovers, and the instructors would be like, all right, boys, pull your maps out. This is your grid square. You're somewhere within this 1 kilometer range. You've got 15 minutes to give us an 8-figure grid, which is within 10 meters. And you've got like, I don't know, I don't even remember what I think it was like, you need to be within 10 meters. Yeah. And if you're not, then that's an automatic fail, man. Once we'd done that, and they'd say, you're here, and you'd have your map, you'd have your compass, and you'd do some map to ground, navigation work. You'd look for high features. You do, triangulation of your area. You change that from, map to grid, and then you'd have to, try and identify exactly where you were within 10 meters. And then after that was the easy part. All right, now you know where you are. Now we've got a target over there. You need to tell us how far away that target is. Judging distances, you need to be within 15%, man. That was fucking cool. I love doing that shit. But it was really hard. You need to be really solid with a map. You need to be really good with your judging distances. And, we didn't have laser range finders or anything like that. It was like, you had to use your map, and you had to, go map to ground and go, well, this is a re-entrant here. There's a high ground. That's roughly, this elevation. There's a feature there, and you'd kind of plot your point on there. You'd make an X, and then you'd measure that out, and you go, that target is at this distance, and you had to be within 15%. Or you could use your maths. I can't even remember how we used to do this, but you could literally look through your scope and the reticles within the scope, and we'd use certain maths or numbers or whatever to say, well, this target fills up this many reticles, so it must be, and I know that target's roughly 1.8 meters or whatever, so that means the target's at this distance. So that's the static nav. Talk about the mobile nav. What's the things that you guys had to do? Yeah,
so what I love about this, though, so to touch on another subject, is all of these different subjects complement each other. So when you start getting a little bit better at your static map, next time you're on a stalk, you have that appreciation of the contour lines, you read the ground better, or your mobile nav becomes a little bit better. And what you don't realise is that at the beginning is this just an utter shit show where you're shit at everything. But as they start to go, and it's another lesson in life, as things start to go, it unravels more and more, and you build momentum, and before you know it, this nicely woven course comes together, and it's a really good thing to see. But the mobile nav, all of ours were at night, and mate, they used to fuck with us, man. I think if they know I think no matter how good the course is, so if you have a course of guys who can all navigate, they will still make sure that they fail sort of up until the last final week or, whatever, because we were looking for little like glow sticks or siloons. There was about an inch poking out the ground at night, buried, in a hole by a tree next to a fucking like savage badger that you couldn't get near. And we'd all, and it's all bearing and pacing, and you'd have guys, the instructors were out at night as well, walking the main tracks to make sure you could go on the tracks. But I tell you what, that course that taught me is not how to black stuff. I'm not going to say that, but risk versus reward and owning the risk. So if I was behind on time, right, and I know the consequences if I get caught on the track, I will fail the course. I'm cheating. I know there's people out walking, checking these tracks. If I'm behind on time, mate, I'm on the tracks or I'm going to fail the course, right? So it's either definitely fail the course or maybe fail the course. So I'm running on the tracks. When I see someone, I break off, I'm taking cover, I'm getting down. And I think that mindset and what that develops is what you want. You want, snipers can't always be by the book and go doctrinally. You need to think outside the box. You need to be, cat and mouse, outthinking your enemy. And this is what the mindset you need
100%
on operations. And I think the instructors knew that. I think they made it so hard that we had to cut corners, because a lot of you try and be a perfectionist and you can't be. Sometimes you need to make sacrifices. You just need to get there and achieve your aim. It's not going to be pretty, but you need to get there. Again, another lesson in life, but definitely a good mindset. It changed my mindset tactically that nothing is perfect. You need to sometimes just fucking get there. It's not going to be pretty, but you've achieved your aim and you've got there at the end. You've got over the line.
Yeah, 100%, man. That brings back something that the lead instructor said when I was on my courses. We got to a certain point of the course where I was sleeping on a stretcher, man, at the back of one of the bases that we had in Timor under a tarp, and it was fucking monsoonal rains, bro. Like we're getting rained out all the time, so we're always wet. But Timor was really fucking hot, super hot, man. So we're always damp, we're always wet. But at one point of the course, we ended up going to one of the bases and there was a mess there. And the lead instructor was like, all right, you guys are on ration packs. These are the rules, blah, blah, blah. But then he also, like, right at the end, he kind of lowered his voice and he goes, but if you're not going to be a little bit of a dodgy cunt, you probably shouldn't be on this course. And he just walked off, and we're like, all right, sweet. And we were just fucking swiping meals left, right, and center, man. And we were just like, just grabbing whatever we could to make our stay a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, for sure, mate. You feral rats. On our final exercise, for sure, we were sneaking out and like stealing like leftovers where they'd had takeaway and stuff like that. I'm not going to name names, but for someone who watches this, he's going to have a smile on his face. I know dudes who have ordered pizzas, right? They've snuck out of the OP at night, run to the edge of the training area, got pizzas, and then come back in and have gone back into routine. But balls make babies, right? That course is full of stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. You've got to be like that. And I remember on our final exercises, we got hit hard, and a classic ends with a big extraction under fire. And we were working towards a fence line, and the DS, who was the instructor that was following us, was sort of like knowing that we were fucking up, and was like trying to hint us or guide us. And they're like, "You're going towards a fence line, you're going to get cut off, and it's going to be index." Little did they know that we'd gone out and we'd cut holes in the fences in particular areas, so we could just get straight through. So it was like bang, 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 bounded, and then we just dropped, all got through this fence, pulled the wire back down, and extracted out. And that was the moment where the DS looked, and he's like, "You little cunts! Like, my job here is done. My job here is done. We've made these feral thieves of the night."
Yeah, 100%, man. That's a brilliant story, bro. But to wind up the sniper's course, like, it culminates with a stalk. And the stalk is essentially a combination of all of those skills and drills that we just spoke about. So what happens is you get dropped off in location. The DS goes, all right, you got 15 minutes to tell me where you are. And then, boom, you've got to give an 8-figure grid. All right, sweet. Now you know where you are. Your target is in this vicinity, and they'll give a 6-figure grid within 100 meters here. And then they go, this is your left of arc, this is your right of arc. You've got 2 hours to get into location to get 2 shots off without being seen, and then extract. So you'd have to do a map recce, figure out the route that you're going to take in, get into location, and you're camming up your ghillie suit as you go with, whatever vegetation from the area that you're working in, and you have to get into position. And dude, like, I would fucking crawl for like 100 meters to get into location, find the target. You'd build your position, get into some cover, get some concealment, have a little bit of depth, find some shade, and then you'd get your shot off, and you'd have a target sitting on a chair, and you'd take a shot. And we're obviously firing blanks. And then as soon as you take that first shot, the target is one of the instructors. They turn around with their binoculars and they're looking for you. And then they're walking the other instructors over with their radio, trying to fucking find your location. And they'll try and find you for a couple of minutes, and they'll go, all right, ready, take another shot. And the instructor that's standing next to you goes, yeah, sniper within 5 meters or whatever. You take your second shot, and they're fucking looking directly at you. And you've got to be able to get that shot off without giving away any signature whatsoever. Then they continue walking the other instructor around, trying to find you. If they see anything, that's a fail. If you get seen, that's a fail. If they don't, then it's like, all right, the target turns around, they have a look through your scope, they have a look through your barrel, and they go, give me a distance. And again, you've got to be within 15%. All right, cool. Now you've got to extract. You've got 3 minutes left to extract without being seen. Man, how does that feel for you? Talking about that again, I got fucking nervous talking about that, man.
Yeah, I think I've just come out in a rush. Mate, ours is exactly the same. We must go off the same model. It's getting in position is hard enough. Taking the shot's hard enough. Then he stands 10 meters or within 5 meters of you, and he's like, I'm within 5 of a sniper, and you've got to take that second shot. And you're not just shooting at anyone, you're shooting at a sniper instructor. He knows exactly what to look for, and he knows the ground. He's done this stalk a million times. So he goes, well, I'd have gone there. It's fucking hard, man. We have another bit as well where once they check for stick shots, so they look down your sight, but he also holds a letterboard up at his face to check that you're not blagging it, so that you can.
Oh, yeah, of course. Good point. I forgot about that. Yeah,
so then, a black alpha on a white background, and that'll be held in front of his face to show that you have seen the target, and you have to report that. This is tough, and as if the instructors weren't tough enough already, on the stalk, they seem to turn even more strict, because this is the bread and butter. This is, can you be a sniper? A sniper is going to get into position, potentially, the old school classic that it was a VIP or some sort of high-ranking general, the stories of Carlos Hathcock in Vietnam and stuff like that, crawling for days and waiting for the wind to change in order to not telegraph the grass when he crawled through. Absolutely the epitome of sniping, but it's tough. And I won't lie, I did not pass a stalk until the final week. I failed every single one. Got to different levels, and as I said, I was getting better the whole time, but I hadn't passed one. We had this big board as well, so you come back at the end of every day and it's like, you don't even have a name, it's just a call sign. So I was Bravo 5, and Bravo 5, red.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck, man. And they're like, you need to fucking up it because it's badge week next week and you're not at the standard. And you're like, go home that weekend with your head in your hands, like, what the fuck? I just want this week to get over with. I couldn't give a fuck about badging by now. I just want the course to end. Yeah, real tough. There's a real good story of a stalk, Ollie, who you met when we come out to Thailand last. He's on a stalk, right? And he's called into position, and he had like garden snares. He's like cut his way into like this big thorn bush, and he's made his cover, and he's awesome, and he's about to take the shot, and he can feel his ghillie hat is catching on a thorn. So he pulls away from it, and he's like, fuck, man. What the fuck is that? Goes to take the shot again. Ghillie hat keeps getting caught on this one thorn. It's going to lift his hat off. He looks to his right, and there's a fucking snake biting the brim of his helmet because he is resting on all of the baby snakes. He looks down, he's on a nest of snakes, and the mother is biting his fucking hat, trying to get him off. So he gets up, he sprints out, he's like, what? He hates snakes, Ollie, absolutely hates snakes. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, and they're like, what's going on? Have you got an injury? And he's like, no, there's a fucking snake in there. It's nearly fucking bit me. And the DS literally was like, fail, take your hat off, back to the start point. Give me a break, poor bloke. That's probably the worst stalk story I've heard and witnessed.
That's a far worse story than mine. I ended up failing a stalk because one of the boys, like I came across one of the boys who like fucking broke his leg, man, in front of me, like going down these massive re-entrants in Timor.
Oh, mate.
And some of these fucking re-entrants are like canyons, bro. And he was like walking across a log in the water or something and like slipped and got his fucking foot caught and like snapped his leg, man. So I was like running up the fucking hill to where the target was. And I'm like, we need a Black Hawk in here to extract this dude. They're like, fail.
True question. Fuck. Would you have stopped if it was your final badge test stalk?
Oh, fuck. Probably not. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to speculate. Nah. It was all about the boys, mate. It was all about the boys. As much as it was like a super fucking individual course, like we still looked out for the boys, and you know, I think they were looking for that as well. They made it really clear, like you can't help each other out. But then, you know, when we were helping each other out and patting each other on the back and trying to bring each other up when people were failing and shit like that, like we could tell that they were like, all right, cool, these are the kind of dudes that we fucking want, man. Like, we're going to test you. We're going to tell you that these are the rules. You can't help each other out, but we also want to see you guys, you know, fucking stick together and, you know, come out the other side.
Yeah, I know the US Marines, you do everything in pairs. I believe they do a lot of more shit with pairs, which I get it, because when you go on operations or when you operate as a sniper, you're always in a pair. However, I think our model is better because you need to know that individual next to you is capable of achieving the standard. So the individuality on course needs to be done, I think, because you know that this man achieves it. And this is why we have the brotherhood. And you know that the man next to you has done the same as you. Not, oh, he was paired up with, you know, Carlos Hathcock who dragged them through. You know, so I do agree with that. I think our model's a lot better.
Yeah. Cool, mate. Let's transition into your next deployment, because obviously those sort of skills are going to fucking set you up for your next deployment to Afghanistan. 2013, you went there as a sniper. Now, talk to me about your role on that deployment.
Yeah, so we were something called the Brigade Reconnaissance Force, sort of abbreviated BRF. Essentially, there was a bit of a selection to do to get into that role. Before you went on operation, so it was, you'd like to say it was not the best soldiers, but the guys who were a bit more motivated and wanted to leave their units to go and do it. So a load of us went and did that, and essentially we stayed in the main camp, Camp Bastion. So we had better living conditions, Wi-Fi, food, gym, that sort of thing. But our main role was to launch on time-sensitive information or intelligence, or specific intelligence on what the Taliban were up to within Helmand province. So if there was a patrol base who was getting particularly, you know, smashed or having a hard time of it, we'd look into it and realise that, say, there's 30 foreign fighters in the town down the road, we'd go and land by helicopter and raid that town. So every time we went out and got dirty, or, you know, when we were out on patrol, we went out and had an effect on the enemy. So it's a very rewarding job. You know, how many times have you been out on an 8-hour patrol and nothing's happened, and you're fucking tired, you're hungry and you're knackered, and you've not really seen the enemy, or it was just nothing happened that day. Every time we went out, we were either taking munitions off them and denying them, or we were actually whacking the Taliban and getting involved. So it was a very rewarding job and a good job to have in Afghan.
Nice. Let's transition. 4th of July, 2013.
Yeah, so 4th of July was my last operation before we come home in our 2 weeks R&R. Stupidly made a joke that morning that, it's the last one, watch one of us get hit. And they were all like, why did you say that? And so, you're not superstitious, are you? It was a nighttime raid, so we left at like 1 a.m, landed at 3, and essentially we were going to clear an area called Yakchow, which had supposedly been cleared by the Afghan army the week before, but we knew it was a hot spot, and we knew that they probably hadn't cleared it because they didn't report many casualties, and we knew this place was a fucking hellhole. Like, we knew we were going to fight. So, yeah, landed at 3, and then we sort of inserted and encircled Yakchow and waited for the sun to come up. As soon as for us, we weren't allowed to kick doors down until daylight. So, first light, we go straight through the door. And the aim there was to sweep through. Myself, with a sniper grouping, we were going to sort of looked on the map, saw exactly where I wanted to go. Wanted to go in this building here. It's perfect range. It was elevated. I felt like it was well defendable. Everything felt good. I was completely happy with the plan. I wouldn't have changed. I mean, even hindsight, I wouldn't have changed the plan to be honest, with that particular operation.
With the intelligence that you had.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, exactly that.
Yep. So, as the sun's kind of cresting, shots start ringing out.
Yeah, so straight away, as soon as the sun come up, we started getting sporadic fire. So we knew that was going to happen, right? We knew Yakshao was going to be a fight. The issue was we've gone in and encircled Yakshao, so you'd be forgiven.
You're like cordoned off the outside.
Yeah, for sure. Facing in, so you'd be forgiven for thinking that behind you was relatively safe. So, I'm looking to face inwards, cover the guys going in. We start getting sporadic fire from behind us, where we've just fucking been. So straight away, there's an issue there, because they've obviously just either outflanked us or out-encircled us, or, why are they doing that? Why are they not defending what we're clearing? Essentially, looking back, what had happened is I'd set up on a building called Old School House, which was like the Taliban schoolhouse, where they teach their teachings to young kids.
Madrasa.
Yeah, all of that sort of stuff. Sharia law, that type of thing. And it's a bit of a symbolic building to them. That, as well as we know, sort of with terrorist culture, or especially with the Middle East, snipers aren't liked. Snipers are seen as assassins. They're not, Muslim law. So that's sort of within warfare, snipers aren't cool dudes. They're high priority targets, because we're not seen and then we kill people. It's essentially that, isn't it? When a sniper comes out on the ground in Afghan to do one thing and one thing only, it's not to hand out biscuits and water. So seeing a sniper on the roof, my own fault again, probably again an elevated position, and with the building being such a cultural interest, it was obvious where I was, and it not too hard to see. We had good cover there, but yeah, looking back, maybe that was a bit too overt. And we started to get sporadic fire. Nothing to worry about. We were holding it fine. And there was a dicker who was within, I'd say he was 240 meters out, which, as you know, with a sniper rifle is not much at all. But he didn't have a weapon, but he was definitely dicking us. So I asked permission to shoot, or to engage him, and we weren't under enough fire to shoot. The rules of engagement we were under stated that we can't shoot dickers. Okay, no dramas.
Mm-hmm. That's people that are spotting and passing on information, things like that, for people that are listening.
Yeah, sorry guys. So a dicker is essentially an Afghan with binoculars around his neck and a radio, right? And he's not there. He's not there to do anything other than call positions. This is one of those times where, as we went in, women and children left. So anyone left inside the town is bad. He's there for a fight, or he's there to cause you problems or issues. He's not. The women and children left, which means the Taliban know this is going to be a hairy day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've asked to engage him. That's not happened. And then the boys, it was just jogging as normal. The plan stays, right? This is Afghan. You're going to get shot at.
Yeah. Let's just pause there for a minute, because, you fucking know that dude is there, observing your location, passing on information, and trying to get a gauge of where all of the your forces are, the coalition forces, right? So then he can pass that information on to other people who can coordinate an attack. Right, just because they don't have a fucking weapon doesn't mean that they're not, they're not fucking
hostile,
operating against you. They're not hostile, exactly. So, just for people at home that are listening, it's like, we do have rules of engagement, but fuck, man, like, some of these guys have been there for a long time, fighting for a fucking long time. They know the rules of engagement, so they're going to fucking bend the rules, or they're going to work those rules to their advantage whenever they can. And man, as soon as you go into a location, atmospherics deteriorate, all the women and children fucking, get out of there. You know that every single fighting age male that's there is there for a fucking fight. They're trying to kill someone.
For sure, man. They know what they're doing. Hey, they know that, you say about the rules of engagement, they know them better than we do. They know exactly our rules of engagement. I've seen guys put weapons down behind a wall, turn out, walk out in front of us, literally in plain sight, within 100 meters. I can hear what he's saying, and his weapon's behind a wall. And
we can no longer engage them.
No,
because if we do, we've now fucking killed an unarmed civilian.
For sure,
it's a complex environment.
it got to the point where we had something called X-spray that we would spray on someone's hands, because when we come under fire, we'd get to a point where we were just about to assault the position, and then all they do is chuck the weapons or hide them and then run away. Then they'd walk out the bushes 10 minutes later and walk past us as if nothing's ever happened, and we're on the position. So you'd say, "Hey, come here," and he'd say, "Well, I'm just a farmer, whatever." So we'd spray this X-spray on his hands, and it would come up this spray and
come up different colours.
Come up different colours that that he'd been firing a rifle and the carbon on his hands and the chemicals. So that was one way of proving. But this is how blatant they'd be, because they know our rules of engagement better than we do. They know them inside and out, and they'd play us to that. So this is where we're at. I'm now looking at this guy a lot. I'm trying to see if I can see just the tip of a weapon pointing in over the top of it. Again, observation coming in here from the sniper's course. Not exploiting the rules of engagement at all, but applying them with minute detail is what I'd say. Turns out we didn't get anything.
Of course, you know that dude's fucking hostile. You're just looking for something incriminating, so you can be like, all right, let's take that dude out. Let's fucking reduce their capability. Yeah,
for sure. I'm looking to lawfully kill him. I'm not looking to unlawfully kill him, but I'm at war, and when he fits the rules of engagement, I'm gonna take him out. So, like I said, we didn't get that, and the operation goes on. This is just my little bubble on my corner of this operation. So the bigger picture is everyone cracks on, and they did, and it's almost as if they got just outside their own weapons range. So, as in our guys were just out of the way that they couldn't cover where I was, and we got hit. We got hit hard on my corner. 15 firing points is what's reported when we look back at the footage and stuff like that. Which is pretty fucking loud, mate. When it's at you, it's that's a heavy rate of fire. It sounded pretty loud. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I couldn't hear Ash, who was right next to me. Couldn't hear what he was saying. Couldn't hear what I was saying. And you just what do you do in that situation, man? You just want the world to swallow you up.
So what happens then? You're returning fire. You're on the radio. You're reporting this higher.
Yeah, correct. So I'm on the radio. I'm trying to get a grip of the situation. One of the boys, Ash, had a machine gun. He starts rattling off with that. And as you know, my 5-round magazine in a bolt-action sniper rifle is not good for anything in a sustained contact like that. 2 minutes in, the rate of fire's picked up, and then bang. I hear Ash almost like split second before sort of the beginnings of the word fuck. As I believe the round fizzed in front of his face. And then plowed straight into my neck. So in one side, out the other. And it was like someone just set the reset button on me. I'd been hit by lightning, and it was like sort of Windows fail. I'm a bit like, what the fuck?
Now like that shot sent you sprawling across the roof, and then you ended up on the ground, on your feet. Talk to me about that. Or tell my listeners that story.
So we're getting shot at hard. I've just been hit. Instant reactions is one of the kinetic energy of being hit has thrown me a little bit. And I just rolled with my rifle just to get the fuck off that roof. Fall off the roof. We're talking about 10 foot high here, so I would have done myself some damage. And I land on my feet. And I'm like, how the fuck have I managed that? 2 seconds later, I can just hear a really like piercing scream. And turn around, and I've landed on a baby goat. So this goat's got snapped in half and all 4 legs sprawled out. And it, innocently trying to graze some food, and a 100-kilo meathead comes plowing down from the roof and absolutely ends its fucking day. But all you can hear Peter. After that for the rest of this day is the screaming of the goat, and it's like it's the one thing that haunts me from the day. I've said it before. It's the one thing that haunts me from that day is that fucking goat. Just so innocent, bless it, and here we are. Life throws a 100-kilo meathead at you sometimes.
So you've landed on your feet. You've been fucking shot. You've killed a goat on the way down, and you're like, "What the fuck? Did I just get shot? Like, there's blood coming out. Like, what's going through your mind?"
Yeah. So I think instantly, mate, I'm dead. I think you get shot in the throat. I believe you got 2 minutes to live. I believe if that jugular gets hit, the main artery. I'm breathing, and then I said I'm breathing, and I was like, well, I'm fucking talking, so I'm not a medical expert, and I'm especially not when I'm panicking. I can feel the 2 holes in my neck. Blood is pissing out, and also, the Camelback, the hydration pipe, the hydration thing you had on your back. One of the pipes had had taken either shrapnel or a bullet. So that has been severed on my body armor. So I've got water pissing down my chest, which I obviously can't see, and I believe is blood. So I'm like, this is fucking heavy. Like, so I looked up at Ash, and I'm like, Ash, how bad is it? And he's a strong Mancunian. He's got a strong Mancunian accent. He's like, mate, and I'm like, yeah, cheers, mate. So, like, how bad is it? I need medical words now. Is it pissing? What? And he's like, that's straight through your fucking neck. And I'm like, yeah, it is. I've got to get something more from you here, man. I'm starting to panic. He was great, and the fact that he wasn't panicking too much, he was more giggling, to be honest. I know this sounds really unprofessional, but it's like that dark humour. People laugh in contact. Yeah. People laugh in fearful situations, especially like idiot 100%. Soldiers who are like, pack mentality. You think it's funny, right?
You're like fucking crack thumping. You're like, oh, fuck, that one was close.
Yeah.
Where's that coming from?
Meanwhile, you've got a middle parting. Your hair's been severed. And you're laughing about it. But hey, that's how we cope. That's how we get through it. But he sort of made me feel a little bit better. And then I just imagined I was on borrowed time, right? If I'm going to die, I'm going to go out with a bang. This is what we did. This is what I trained to do. This is why I wanted to come back out after my first tour. All the casualties we took. So it's time to fight. You want to get out there. All you want to do is go to Afghan. This is it. You've got to put your money where your mouth is. So get aggressive, get up, get punching. And that's what we did for a couple of minutes. Couple of minutes of pure panic, couple of minutes of hard fighting, a couple of minutes of not knowing what the fuck was going on, because I'm trying to gather where these positions are. I went out to a doorway, and there was about 3 or 4 Taliban within 100 meters of that doorway about to punch in. I'm with a bolt action rifle. We had a camera crew with us. Again, Cobes, I'll get you on the footage after this, actually.
Yeah.
I've got a camera crew with me who at first weren't being very helpful. They're just trying to film me. And I'm like, how about you drop the camera and get that fucking rifle up, because there's dudes throwing grenades over the wall.
Start putting some rounds down range, you fuckheads.
Yeah, fuck's sake. So that I did have 5 minutes of panic and real fear, real acceptance that I was going to die. I thought I was dead. I won't lie to you. I thought I've got a couple of minutes here. So we went out tried to go out with a bang, and I'm panicking. What's Ash going to do if I fucking pile in? He's got to deal with a firefight. He's got to deal with me. 5 minutes in, the medic comes running through the door. He, in actual fact, has heard me say it on the radio, the personal radio, and without even asking the group he was with, he just went, "Boss, I'm off. Si's been shot," and he started running. And the boss is getting over the main radio, but he's heard it on the PRR, and Wes just started running. I believe it was about 400 or 500 meters, full kit, 40, 50 degrees Celsius, through Taliban firing points. He's running past the Taliban that's shooting me. So they must have turned around and looked and been like, what the fuck is this fuckhead on?
Fucking nutter.
Yeah, he came straight in. It cracked his classic joke, every day's a legs day, because he was the PTI, so he used to train us physically before we went out to deployment, and he was always hammering our legs. But yeah, every day's a legs day. Was completely calm, looked at me, and said straight away, I've got you. He's like, don't risk, goes, it's fine. And for me, mate, after that, no panic. This is, like I said, the man next to you, is of good caliber. He says it, it's done. So for me, mate, there genuinely was not a panic after that. He said I was fine. I had Ash next to me, the guy on the machine gun. A couple minutes after Wes got in, the rest of the section got in. So for the guys who aren't military, the rest of the soldiers that I was sort of covering came back, and then we took over that compound. So we took over the building. Started breaking down arcs, started dishing out target indications, started getting the fire back. And, we mentioned earlier, Cobes, you had the worst days of your life and the best days of your life. That day, I went from probably one of the worst moments of my life to one of the best moments of my life. The rest of that day was awesome, man. That's what we went out to Afghan to do. We had an awesome firefight. Yeah. We fucking, did some damage. We got in a good scrap. I'm with all these boys that are just I look around, I'm with all these guys who are the ultimate professionalism at the highest level they're going to operate at, absolutely killing it, being brave, and just getting aggressive because one of their boys has been hit and it was me. And to experience that, there's not many humans that do experience that. There's not many soldiers that potentially experience that, especially now, guys, we're not deploying as much. Very privileged to have felt that level of that high. It's almost like, I'd say it's like a drug. I'm very experienced to have experienced that. It's fucking pretty cool.
Yeah, man. That's an amazing story, bro. I'm just wary of the time, bro. Do you need to run? There's so many things that I want to ask you.
Mate, I've got all day.
Sweet, man.
Can we stop for 2 minutes while I go for a pee?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
Give me a minute.
I'm going to go for one as well.
Cheers for that, man.
No worries, bro. So all this goes down. You get extracted by helicopter. There's a funny story that goes along with that, which we're not going to get into. But if you want to listen to that, you can go and listen to the Instructions Sold Separately podcast, which is the interview that you did with the Swiss 8 boys. I'll have that linked in the show notes. So from there, you go home for 3 weeks. Your mum kind of razzes you up a little bit. Don't fucking do that to me again. And then you're back on the ground in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so I got 3 weeks at home. Essentially, I got operated on in Afghan. Sort of cut my throat open and cleaned it all up. Saw the extent of the damage and of what the bullet had done. Had stitches. Went home. As soon as the stitches came out, that was me fit to deploy again. Don't get me wrong. The unit said you don't have to come back out. You know, you're more than welcome to stay at home. And for me, that would have been the worst thing to do because I'd have been isolated from the guys. We still have 3 months left of the tour. You know. Lads got hurt and you weren't there. I think I'd have been in a very different state mentally. All I wanted to do was get back to normality, get back with the boys. And it's not because I love war. It's because that's where my family was, the tribe was, you know, and that's where I wanted to be in this time. I wanted to get through it with them, not sat at home isolating myself. So
that's what you fucking trained for, man.
This is one shot at the title,
all of those years. Yeah, exactly, bro. All of those years that you'd put into, you know, sacrificing, you know, Christmases and New Year's and birthdays and weddings and funerals and fucking all of those things in your life, man. Like that's your title shot.
For sure. And you put it a lot better than I could have, made. It was like you said, all those years training. That was my tour. This was my time. This was the World Cup. You know, it only comes around so often, and it turned out to be my last World Cup. So really glad I managed to get back out. Landed at night, and then I woke up the next day in Afghan, and my platoon wasn't due to go out for a couple of weeks, for another week, I think, because we'd only just got back from our R&R. There was another troop going out, Ollie's troop, and they were like, "We need an extra sniper. You'll be paired with Ollie." I said, "Yeah." Okay. I'll go on that. They're like, "Yeah, they're going out, in the morning." Shit. So within 24 hours of being in Afghan, I was back on a helicopter going on another assault. And I'm not going to lie to you, mate, that was a little bit ropey for me. I had to have a long look in the mirror, a nice cold splash of water on my face, and just, you know, this is fucking it. What you do now is everything you've been gobbing off about, you know, sniper this, and you think you're a good operator, fucking prove it. So for me, that was my little battle. And I'm not, you know, I did struggle. The first contact I then came back into, you know, come under fire again. I was very wary, mate, because before I thought I was invincible and unbreakable, and I all of a sudden felt vulnerable. And you're still getting up on roofs and still suppressing positions. Exactly what happened before. Before you know it, when it comes incoming again, you're back in that situation where last time you got hit. So it was tough, but it wasn't an issue because the guys I was with, again, and the unit I was operating with just made it so it wasn't an issue. I was with some really good lads who, you know, would always cover my arse, and you just didn't want to let the side down, to be honest. So, you know, I worked through it, but it was definitely a journey, for sure.
Yeah, man. Mate, that's a great point. It's something I haven't really experienced, unfortunately, in the civilian world since I got out of the army in 2012. Is like, you know, I went from these fucking high-level operators working with snipers. I actually got taken out of snipers and put back into a rifle company as a section commander because they're like, you know, we need to spread the knowledge and experience, blah, 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 blah. You know, so I was like, this is not for me. I want to be a fucking sniper, and we're not deploying anymore. So I'm going to get out. I'm going to go and do my own thing. But since then, 2012, man, I haven't met, you know, people with the same professionalism that I can rely upon no matter fucking what, bro. And that's something that's, you know, a lot of dudes struggle with. And that's definitely something that I struggled with. And I still haven't really found, you know, my tribe of people that I can rely on for absolutely anything. Now, let's talk about, we'll kind of come back to your transition process in a moment. But before you left Afghanistan on that deployment, you had one of your mates killed on operations. Talk to me about the emotions that went through you, and how that affected you, and kind of, was there any aftermath to what happened there, or was it just kind of crack on and I'll deal with this later on?
Yeah. So, a good friend of mine, Jay, got killed on our last operation before coming home. So I think, it was on our way back. We got ambushed, literally on the extraction. Got caught out, really heavy rate of fire, and whilst half the lads are extracting, myself and Jay were giving covering fire, and then as myself and Jay went to extract, he got hit. He passed away. The issue for me was that was my last. So I said to you before, I got on okay after I got shot, because I came back out to Afghan and had 3 months to sort of get back on it. I went back to Yakshaw in those 3 months, fucking killed a load of dudes. That was the score was settled.
Yep.
The issue there was I came back off that operation, was dealing with Jay's death, and then they took my rifle off me, and they're like, yeah, you're going home now. And within a week, I'm back home, and I'm fucking sat in my living room. What I probably would have liked to have done is stay out there for another month and just had the operation, done a couple of punchy operations, given them a bit back, or just not.
Yep.
It almost felt like you're running away. And that that sole day is why I've had issues. If I've ever had issues, it's been that sole day, because how do you deal with that? You just feel. It's my first death that I've been intimately involved with regards to a soldier of my own unit. We've had it in the past with neighbouring squadrons or companies and stuff like that, or Afghans, a lot of Afghan soldiers, but someone that I knew that I was involved with. So to then just be home within a week, and you just have this whirlwind of emotions anyway. You just turn the washing machine on, so to speak, but just before you put the washing machine on, someone's put some spicy shit in there, and that's now getting mixed up. So for me, I felt it really hard to deal with it, and I didn't know how to deal with it, mate. To be honest, I'd say maybe still haven't dealt with it, but I understand it now, is what I would say.
Yeah, man, that's a great point. There's not really any decompression period. It's just like you're in Afghanistan, you're fighting, you're dealing with casualties, injuries, deaths, and then you're back in Civvy Street. And dude, when I got back from Afghanistan, mate, I was with a girl for a couple of years, and I was with her whilst I was in Afghanistan. And I remember one day we were out for brunch, and she ordered whatever, eggs Benedict and a coffee or something like that. And she blew up, man, and she called the waiter over and started fucking abusing this waiter for her coffee not being hot enough, man, and her poached eggs not being cooked correctly. And I was just staring at her are you fucking serious? Coming from that environment back to, this, I guess, the bubble of a life that a lot of people live in, man. And, I mean, I don't want everyone to experience that, but, having some sort of process or transition process, a decompression process for soldiers coming from that environment back into the civilian world, that needs to be looked at in a little bit more detail, and something needs to be put into place. And, that goes for the transition process out of the military, because you come back from deployment and you have pretty much no process. You're back in civilian world. And then that's kind of extrapolated when you go from the military into the civilian world, and you don't have any transition process. You're taught how to be a fucking soldier. You're taught how to go from being a civilian to a soldier when you join the army, and that might be 6 months up to 18 months, 2 years of training, depending on what corps you go to, what role you do. But going from military to civilian, there's no transition process, and you're not taught how to integrate back into society, and you're not taught some people you're not going to be able to rely upon, and you're not going to have the same camaraderie, and you're going to have to kind of fend for yourself. And here's some tools to deal with managing your mind and your emotions and, all that type of stuff. Talk to me about some of the, I guess, I don't want to say issues, but some of the difficulties that you faced when you did transition from military to civilian. What year was that? And talk to me about that process.
Yeah, so I left at the end of 2017. And just to add on to your point, Cobes, you're 100% right. And any training you do get about leaving the army is given to you by people still in the army. So what the fuck do they know about leaving the army? Like, they're still in. You know, they haven't gone through what you literally just have to do it. So I struggle. I was very lucky. I got into a good job straight away, sort of, again, through someone I knew, but I got something to, you know, I had money coming in, so I didn't have that worry, and it was something that I could stick my teeth into. The issue I had is what you said. You know, I expected everyone to be at the standard that it was in the army. I left working with a great team. Before that, I had snipers. So I thought if I asked one of my mates, or I could 100% depend on anyone, you can't do that in the civilian world. You can't do that in life. But with the military lads, you could. So that was a hard lesson. There was a couple of situations there where you're like, fucking hell. The loyalty side of it. And also I went into a freelance world. So you're fucking fighting for work, and that's ruthless. So, you know, being a good bloke doesn't fucking help you. You know, someone's trying to take your work. And there's a lot of that. So I struggled with that side of things. And I normally, if you're having a shit time, like I said, and you're in the block, someone spots it straight away. What's up with you? Or, you know, you sat at dinner with all the lads. You know, you sat just sort of looking at your food. What's up with you? You don't have that when you're at home. Or when you leave the army and you're home alone. What you do is you go home alone, and and when you don't have this understanding of why you're feeling bad, you just sit there and sort of sulk, and it gets worse. Or you drink, or, you know, people do drugs, or you just go out and do shit that's not good for you because you're trying to get a release. Something I found as well that when I did realise I was having an issue, is I went 100% the other way. So I was trying to hit the gym 3 times a day around work, not drinking anything, trying to eat healthily, and you're then setting yourself too much. I think that's just as unhealthy, being obsessive the other way. I think you need to, the trick is to wind down, not put the same amount of energy into something else. That's just as obsessive and just as harmful.
Yeah, that's it, dude. Like, if that pendulum swings too hard in one direction, you know, it's going to swing hard in the other direction. So, you know, managing those steps that you put into place is super important, man, for sustaining those results long term.
Yeah, that's an awesome way of putting it, mate. With the pendulum. Yeah, I like that a lot. Like you said, you put that amount of energy into anything that's not on this center line, it's not going to happen. It's something as well I'd say to people. I know we spoke about it earlier on, but say people who are struggling, you set these goals, is don't be too hard on yourself if you don't achieve the goals. Because I used to try and set myself, I'm going to do this in the gym today. And then I wouldn't do it. And because I hadn't achieved it, I felt like shit. And you've got to be, I think part of that is being realistic with your goal setting, of course. But also, if you don't achieve it, have a step back. This isn't the end of the world. You know, you've still been progressive, you know, productive today. You've done well, etc.
Yeah. That's a good point, man. I do go into like goal setting and creating consistency and motivation, direction, shit like that in some of my like very first episodes. So if you guys are interested in that, go and listen to that. First 2 weeks of the podcast is all about like building foundations, fundamentals. But mate, what I want to go into now is how you learnt about the information that you had been nominated for the Conspicuous Gallantry Cross, which for those listening at home is the second highest gallantry award in the British military. So for Australians, it's the equivalent to the Star of Gallantry, and for Americans, it's the equivalent to, it's either the Distinguished Service Cross or the Silver Star, I believe.
Yeah, so I was on a course to get promoted, so Section Commander's Battle Course. I think so for you guys, it would be the course you have to do to become corporal, right, within the infantry. I was on that, and I'm from the Household Cavalry, right, so I get called a donkey walloper wherever I go. So we work with horses on the ceremonial side of things. So I turned up to this course, and the Sergeant Major's like, fucking donkey walloper, you know, I'll give you 2 weeks and till you jack it in and fail. And I was like, yeah, okay, lovely, nice one. Cheers, dickhead. So I'm midway through a class during this course, and they're like, Moloney, out, your colonel's on the phone. And I'm like, fuck. 2 things. I'd been out on the piss that weekend and got in a fight and been a bit of a dickhead. The other thing is, a load of us were smashing a load of shit, like test boosters in the gym and stuff that we weren't sure was maybe going to pass the CDT if we ever got CDT. So, you know, and I was like, shit. Those are the 2 things I thought it was going to be. So I get pulled in, pulled into the office and he's like, yeah, Moloney, Colonel's on the phone. Yeah, he goes on. He's like, yeah, I'm very happy to tell you that you've been awarded the Conspicuous Gallantry Cross. Congratulations, haven't read your citation yet, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. Got off the phone and like, I'm not going to lie to you, I had to Google what a CGC was. I didn't know what it was. I completely caught me off guard. So I get told that, get pulled off the course straight away to go and do like a media day thing with all the Afghan guys. So I had to go next door to that Sergeant Major, and he's like, oh, Moloney, he's like, here to tell me you're fucking, you're jacking. And I was like, no, I'm off on the piss in London for a week. I'll catch you next week for the next exercise, yeah. And then he went to throw his fucking pay stick at me, and the OC's like, yeah, Maloney's just been awarded CGC. He's going to catch up next week. I was like that.
He's going to get on the piss with Prince Harry.
Yeah. So that's how I got told. But yeah, I had to Google it at first, man. I didn't know what it was, and it was totally out of the blue. I didn't expect it.
Yeah, talk to me about like the emotions that you went through when you were told that. But then as that information started sinking in, and then leading up to actually being presented with that award by Her Majesty the Queen of England. Yeah.
Initially, I didn't think it was about getting shot. I thought it was about potentially when I mentioned when Jay passed away. So when you actually get to read your citation, you realise I had a very different feeling about it. I'd never turn it down, but I didn't think I deserved it by any means, because I essentially got bailed out of the shit that day by my guys. Wes the medic, he got a medal also that day for that day, but there were 10 blokes on the ground that day that saved my arse, and I would have nominated or given my medal to without shadow of a doubt. So I had a bit of a weird feeling about it. Wasn't going to turn it down. It done my career a lot of favours, and the good thing about this medal was I went to Windsor Castle to receive it from Her Majesty the Queen. And my mum and my dad, who had been through, and my little brother, who had been through this shit with me, for 10 years in the army, going off to all these places, away all the time, getting injured, then going back out. They got to dress up, come to Windsor Castle, meet the Queen, and see their son get a medal. So for them, it was closure on it and a nice way to end, I think. Because from there, I didn't really go to any dangerous places, and sort of did instructional roles and stuff like that. So 100% glad I got it. Very proud to have got it from the Queen. It was good hype for the regiment, good hype for the lads on that tour. But personally, there are 10 boys that should have got it over me, my opinion, for what happened on that day.
Yeah, man. And I've got something similar as well. When I got back from Afghanistan, I actually got stuck into the gym and rugby training and stuff like that, because there was the Defence Force World Cup coming up at the end of the year. And I think I got back from Afghan June. It was maybe a week after my birthday or something. Defence Force World Cup was kicking off at the end of the year. Teams from all over the world playing in Defence Force World Cup in conjunction with the Rugby World Cup in 2011 in New Zealand. So I got stuck into that, got selected for the team, went to, Canberra, played down there, and then top 4 teams went to New Zealand. So I went to New Zealand, played over there with the Australian team. Away for 2 months, man. I was pretty much getting paid to be an athlete. And, after getting back from Afghanistan, I was kind of like, all right, this is my time to let my hair down and get a little bit loose. And, I was with the rugby boys. Obviously, I'm training and shit like that. I'm playing games, so I still had to perform, but I was also letting my hair down and having some fun with the lads. So yeah, anyway, I get back from that trip, and I've got a letter in the mail saying you've been nominated for the Commendation for Gallantry, which is the 4th highest award in Australia for gallantry. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? So it said you need to get in contact with these people by this date, and that date had already passed. So I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. So I rang my mates and I was like, hey boys, this is the letter that I've got in the mail. It's really fucking bizarre. I don't know what's going on. And they're like, oh, what are you gonna do? And I was like, well, the date's already passed, so whatever, I can't accept it. And they're like, you're a fucking idiot. Call them up, tell them what happened, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I don't want to accept it. Shit happened on the ground and I was Johnny on the spot. You guys pulled your weight. You did what you need to do. Anyone could have fucking got that medal, or, a number of blokes could have got a number of different medals on that day, or those days, that they were talking about. And they're like, well, if you're not going to accept it for yourself, accept it for the team at least. And I was like, yeah, fuck, you make a really good point. So, I kind of understand where you're coming from, man. And, it's most guys that have been awarded are just like, I just fucking did my job, you know, and other guys did their fucking job as well. And we did what needed to be done to get the job done at the end of the day. Let's talk about your achievements since you've gotten out of the army. You've talked about, you know, some of maybe the not the issues, but some of the difficult things that you face. Let's talk about some of the things that you've achieved that you're proud of since getting out of the military and embarking on your civilian life.
Yeah, for sure. For me, the best thing I've achieved is, you see that out, you know, you said when you came back from Afghan, you went for a coffee and people getting upset over things that wouldn't be. I believe I've managed to maintain that perspective. My girlfriend says, she's like, you're quite chilled out, but, you know, I didn't realise how chilled out you actually were. And I say this because I have managed to keep that. If I'm not getting shot at, people aren't dying, there isn't this stress, it's probably not worth getting upset about. I know I don't work well when I get myself upset. I'm the best when I don't give a fuck about stuff. So what I'd say here is my proudest achievement is my perspective on life now. I've gone through a rocky time, hey, and I've had some bad times, I've said to you. But where I'm at now, I'm happy. I know what I need to be happy. It's not all about earning loads of money and etc. I know what I care about, you know, the sort of my closest friends, my family. As long as they're happy, my perspective on life stays how it is. I'm pretty set to be successful in life. This is my opinion, and I'd say this is where I'm at. And, you know, and only in the last 6 months I'd say that, but for sure.
Yeah, man, that's a very well put, mate. Like it gives you perspective. You know, my ex-girlfriend, I was with her for 5 years. We'd go traveling for 2, 3, 4 months every year. We'd close our businesses down, go traveling. I'd come to Tiger, train in Thailand for a month, and then meet her, whatever, in Hawaii or something, and then we'd go traveling or whatever. Did this for like 4 or 5 years, and it was funny, man, because she would always say, like, she'd be kind of disappointed when she'd say, hey, you're really excited for our trip. We're about to go on this, 3-month trip in a couple of days' time. And I'm like, oh, I haven't really thought about it. And, she would kind of get pissed off about it. And, she's like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you not excited about this stuff? And I'm like, I've got so many things that so many loose ends I need to tie up over the next couple of days. Like, I'm going to focus on that stuff now. I'm going to be in the moment rather than living in the future. And obviously I need to prepare for that. But, once I've done all the preparations, I need to tie up my loose ends. I need to, fucking be here and now and do the shit, get the shit done that I need to do. But, after a couple of years of this, I finally figured out a way to communicate it to her. I'm like, what's the most exciting thing you've ever done in your life? And she's like, skydiving. And I was like, all right, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how exciting was that? And she's like, well, that's a 10. I was like, well, your level 10 skydiving is a level 6 for me. I'm like, the most exciting thing, exhilarating thing I've done in my life is being in a fucking firefight where someone's trying to take my life and I'm trying to take their life. And I'm like, that's your reference point, right? So, going on a holiday is not that exciting for me. I mean, obviously I'm going to fucking enjoy it whilst I'm there when I'm on the ground, but, I'm not looking forward to that. Have you had many experiences like that?
Yeah, for sure, mate. You raise a really good point. It's like you don't struggle to enjoy stuff. I enjoy it, but it's these. You look around and you're not normal, or what you'd say would be integrated in normal. My take on this as well is, like, in the army you don't show emotion, you don't show happiness, you don't show fear or sadness. So it's almost like something goes through in your head and you feel it, and then you decide whether to express it or not. So, you are excited about that holiday. It's a good holiday. Like, you've just said to me now, it was a good holiday. But I'm not going to start jumping around about it because that's just not what we do. And I think we take that for granted that is still bred into us, man. Like, there's some sad times where inside I'm like, that is sad. You're almost like a robot, but you're still here. It's just exactly the same. And I think especially when you're in a relationship where you've got to communicate a lot more and especially emotionally involved, it's something that that will come up and people don't understand. And it's really interesting to hear you say that and your experience of that, for sure.
Yeah, man. And dude, like, I absolutely agree with what you just said of being able to kind of just chill, man. Just be yourself. be in the moment and not, create stress or anxiety or anything like that because you're, constantly looking for the next thing, or you're looking back in the past or whatever. You're comfortable in your own skin. You know exactly what your values are. And I think that's a big thing. Like, you fucking spend your entire life trying to figure out who you are and what's important to you. And, some people never find that in their entire life, and they're floating through fucking life, man. And, those people, they're on a difficult road, but some people, they go through these experiences, they have these life-changing experiences, and, it either shapes you or it breaks you. You can choose how you perceive those events, and it takes time to condition yourself to doing that. You can't just say, well, I'm just going to fucking think positive about everything that comes up. Like, that's not the case, but you need to try and look for the positives in every single situation, and try and take a positive out of everything, man. I spoke about this recently on a podcast about my reflections for 2020. I had a couple of mates commit suicide. I had, a couple of mates died as well. A number of kind of shitty things happen, but I look back at the people that I lost and I appreciate the time that I had with them. And I'm like, I've got those memories forever. And unfortunately, we can't make any more memories, but I've got those memories that I had with those people. And, as shitty as that is, and as shitty as that sounds to try and do, like, you fucking have to do that, man, because that's the only way that you can manage your mind, is condition yourself to try and be grateful for anything, man, every single fucking day.
Yeah, for sure. And, the Stoic philosophy of, it is out of my hands, so why am I getting stressed about it? I can't change it. For definitely, there's a book called Win or Learn that Coach Kavanagh, it's Conor McGregor's sort of head guy. The title is Win or Learn, regardless of the book, and that sort of highlights that is, you can win, yeah, and that's a positive, but even you get broken, or Jocko talks about it all the time. Good, you failed, good, because you now look at points. Yep. There's always a positive. And it also, is it always perceived as a positive? It's maybe not, but it can be perceived as something that's going to move you forward and make you better than you were yesterday, which is what, what we all may be trying to achieve. So, yeah, for sure, man. You said it's perception, and just, if it's not out of your control, why are you getting stressed about it? Why are you letting it affect you and your family and your unit and what you're about?
Mate, I want to start winding up. I'm obviously aware of your time. We've been talking for a fucking long time. Like I said, we could continue this conversation for another. We'll end up being a Joe Rogan for 3.5 hour episode.
Yeah. Getting beers from the fridge.
Yeah. Have you had any outstanding mentors or coaches or anyone in your life that has had a significant impact on the man that you are today?
So this is the question you highlighted to me before we did this, and I'm glad you did, because I thought about it a lot. I had a lot of mentors in the army. But you do, because of the rank structure, right? You're always striving to be the one above and stuff like that. This might be perceived as a bit of a soft answer here, but my take on it is this. Like I said, I've worked quite hard over the last couple of years to understand who I am, what I want, and my perception, how to be happy. So if you ask me now who my role models are, I'd say I'm in a very good position in life. Is I don't need to look up, as I look left and right. If I'm going to have trouble, I consider you a good friend. I could think, what would Cobes do here? I've got my friends left and right. I'm not going to name names. I know who they are, but I keep good company. I've got good friends from my time in the army and from who I choose to keep now. I choose to keep this company because they're good people. My role models are what they're doing. I just need to look left and right and see, they're all killing it at work, or there's a situation here with in a relationship with my girlfriend that I talk to him about. And I think, again, for me, this is a sign of, in my opinion, huge success for myself, because I just look left and right, man. I've got good people around me at all times. Any advice I get is going to be sound advice, and any opinion I hear, I'm probably going to think it's pretty decent. So for me, I've worked hard, to get to this stage, but keep good people around you. You're not going to go far wrong. You don't need role models. You don't need to look on Instagram. You don't need to look for motivational videos on YouTube. You just look left and right, and you've got your boys. I think a lot of military guys can think of that and remember that you don't have to look too far.
Mate, I fucking love that answer, man. Never above you, never below you, always beside you. Brothers by choice. Love it.
For sure.
The name of this podcast is Live, Train, Perform, which stands for Live Life to the Fullest, Train to Your Potential, and Perform at Your Best. What does that mantra mean to you?
For me, it is, as we touched on before, you don't look at whatever anyone else is doing. Whatever you're going to do and you believe in and what you've been brought up or what your values are, do them and do them well. If you're going to be a chimney sweep, be the best chimney sweep you can be. If your role in life is to be someone's father, or you want to be a good boyfriend, or you want to be a UFC fighter, just be the fucking best you can be. Hold your head up high every day. And if you were a role model to someone, say you had a son, what would they think? Just try and, if you think like that every day, then I don't think you go too far wrong.
Mate, I love it, man. I really appreciate your time, brother. Much love, much respect to you, man. Hopefully we can catch up in the near future. I will have, Head Up and all the organizations that you're working with linked in the show notes. Any feedback for this episode, much appreciated, guys. If you're sharing it on your stories, make sure you tag myself and Mo so we can share it as well. Brother, final points, mate. What do you got?
Mate, it's been really good to catch up, and mate, I'll be out to Thailand probably with the Head Up boys at the very first opportunity, so we'll be seeing you very soon, mate.
Love it, brother. Let's catch up soon.
Peace.
And there we have it, guys, my interview with Simon Moloney. This was one of my favourite interviews that I've conducted so far. I really enjoyed it. If you did as well, please make sure you share it with your friends and family. If you do put it on your social media stories, please make sure you tag myself and Mo. Our links will be in the show notes. Any 5-star ratings and reviews are much appreciated. Much love, guys. Peace.